for this administration. And the best way to do it is for the incoming administration to come out openly and tell Nigerians the truth, what they have actually inherited. But if you cover them, if you try to protect this administration on the ground that you are from the same party, the roof is going to fall on the head of whoever is going to take over power in Nigeria after May 29. So that is my view. They should tell Nigerians the truth of what they have inherited, and if there is a need to immediately set up a committee or panel to probe this administration, all the laws that have been sourced and the projects they have been used for, and how the ministries, department of agencies of this government have been run for the last 8 years, this incoming administration must probe this administration if they are going to have the benefit of doubt and the leverage for them to be able to operate. But if you take over power and say everything is fine and good, then you should know it that you are going to bear the consequences of what will happen after May 29.
Well, I think you're right about the issue of debt, to the extent that when Mr. Buhari took over, debt was around $60 billion, and as he prepares to leave, it's now over $150 billion. But their argument, and I'm not a spokesman for them, but it is only fair to put forward their argument, is that far from this being a borrowing spree, as it's being made out, that first of all, it is within acceptable limits, but also that there have been a lot of gains. A lot of that money has been spent on improving the supply of military hardware to the army, tackling Boko Haram. There's been improvements to the road and rail networks. There's a new port in Lagos, the completion of the Niger Bridge in the southeast, the commissioning today of Africa's biggest refinery, etc. I mean, surely those are a credit to President Buhari.
Well, what I want us to take notice about this administration is that apart from President Muhammad Buhari, the next person that speaks on the economy is simply the governor of Central Bank. It's like he is the prime minister of this administration, and everything about the economy centers around him. A government is supposed to have an economic team, an economic council, in which informed economic decisions are made by experts, by technocrats, by people who know what the economy is all about. But in this administration, who is the star in the economy? None. It's all about the CBN involved in infrastructure, the CBN involved in transport, the CBN involved in construction of bridges, the CBN involved in agriculture. So it's all about, it begins and ends with CBN and the governor of Central Bank. And that is why we're here. Now, it is not simply about you have constructed a second Niger bridge, or you have built roads from Kaduna to Abuja or to Kano or Lagos Ibadan. If those funds, if those infrastructures were executed with public funds and with borrowed money, people need to know how much was borrowed and how much of that money that was borrowed was used for such projects. It's very important. You can't pile up such a debt. Within the last 3 years, the current National Assembly has approved over $30 billion for foreign loan. So is it because we have built bridges and construct roads, so I should not, as a Nigerian, demand to know how much was used? Meanwhile, this money has to be paid. If we are going to pay this money, we need to know the cost of those projects that was done. And that is the first assignment of this administration. And again, you have seen things going on in speed. Approval for spectrum, Ministry of Communication, concession of airports, concession of ports, concessioning of a stadium, concession upon concession. It's all happening within the last few days and few weeks. And mind you, when you are concessioning, you're sitting down with those people from the other side. You're writing agreements, signing papers, legal papers, and then these are the kind of things that happened in the past. We wake up, and then we hear that Nigeria has been taken to court in London or in Paris, and we have lost the case, and our account will be garnished with in billions of naira, dollars or pounds or euro. So to me, it's not about you have built roads. You build road with public funds, and you build road with borrowed money from China or Islamic Development Bank of Saudi Arabia or IMF or World Bank or Afrexim Bank. You build roads with money you have borrowed. So we need to know how much of that borrowed money was used for such project. So if you borrow and then you construct a bridge, so what am I going to do? I should thank you for borrowing, or thank you for building bridges, or thank you for borrowing and building bridges, or simply I should thank you for building bridges while I take the brunt of payment of such debt. So that is how a government, you have to answer questions. And one thing which they don't want us to know, they don't want to answer, is the money that was spent on projects. For example, now, in the last 7 to 8 years, over $20 billion was budgeted for defense. But what has it translated to in terms of security in the country? Boko Haram and other terrorist groups are still operating in northeastern part of Nigeria. In Kaduna here, as we are conducting this review, you can't move outskirts of Kaduna, 1 kilometer outskirts of Kaduna, for the next 1 hour without getting into the hands of bandits. Even if there are no bandits, you have fear that you will fall into the hands of bandits. What has such money, humongous amount of money that has been budgeted to defense and security, what has it been used for? With all respect, our military have been engaging the terrorists, have been fighting, and I must salute those who have, the families of those whose loved ones have sacrificed their lives for this country. But if you look at the money that was allocated for defense in this country, then you look at the situation which we are in now, then you ask yourself a question. Nigeria's defense budget is 10 to 20 times more than that of Niger, more than that of Cameroon, more than that of Benin Republic. But those nations are more secure than we are. What have we seen? We have seen the army building event centers, the army building hotels, the army building universities, the army building all those things that have nothing to do with security in the country.
I think
and the same thing with other paramilitary forces, they're also engaged in building.
Right. I think you certainly have...
So as far as I'm concerned, questions need to be asked.
I think you're very correct, Senator Sani, that accountability must be the watchword of any country that wants to make progress. We're fast running out of time.